Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. My sister and I have always been very close, yet somehow as far apart as we could be. To put it very simply, we always spend every moment of each passing day together, but we spend most of them arguing or fighting about the most mundane or insignificant inconveniences. I'm not sure why that is, but I could suggest that it's because our personalities are so opposite. I'm very calm and collected and mature. She, on the other hand, is very aggressive and extreme and controlling. Growing up, I always thought that the differences in our personalities would ensure that we grew up and be there for each other. But because of the events that took place in recent times, I don't think that's going to be the case between us. Though our arguments were sourced from her being extremely competitive and always comparing herself to me and others, or her clinging onto the most extreme reactions, the state of being in the way she acted, it's now explained by the diagnosis she received in her third year of university and when I had already graduated. She was diagnosed with bipolar, which is a disease that makes a person either act out on manic behavior and extreme update emotions, or experience long, unexplainable, and unfixable periods of depression. I can't really give you the precise definition of the disease, but as far as my understanding goes, that's what I think it is. Nowadays, even though she's been diagnosed and has been medicated for her troubles, she still seems to be drowning in problems and never out of troubles or topics about her to be discussed on family dinners and tables. Shows me she gets herself into debt or with the wrong people or initiates situations and problems that she could never go all the way through with. It's not really my place to tell you what they are, and I think it would be disrespectful of me to explain the situation of such a complicated mental illness in simple words and in terms that I don't even understand. My marriage, on the other hand, is one that could be explained away by optimistic expressions and things that I'm very well aware of. My husband and I fell in love at first sight and have been handling each other's baggage and problems ever since. From the start, we prioritized communication and understood how strong our connection was and proceeded to build a marriage and a long-term relationship all on that principle, until it eventually led to a very fruitful, beautiful, soon-to-be expecting marriage. My husband grew up in a terrible environment, which led him to become an undoubtedly corrupt adult for a good majority of his adulthood. He learned to cope with his problems through drinking and violence, which he never really applied to me, but definitely made me suffer the consequences of them. His understanding of what I went through to make sure he's all right and gets through his bad coping habit made our communication and honesty with each other even more critical. One time during my college years, when we were dating for over 3 years, he cheated on me with someone that I considered very close to me and couldn't even dare to hold it in his heart and hide it away from me. He immediately came to me and presented me with the excuses he had, very well aware of the fact that no excuse could explain away the damage that it would cause on a relationship. But I could safely say that that's just what made us get through it faster, healthier, and better. Now that you are capable of visualizing what the other two parties involved in the story are like, I'll tell you how my recent pregnancy led to the fallout of my relationship with my mother and my sister around the same time. From the diagnosis and up until the point where my sister stopped drinking her meds and went back to her bad habits, I had always been updated on her health and well-being through my mother because my sister never likes to share her points of weakness, and her illness is something she considered the epitome of being weak. I, on the other hand, don't have a problem sharing personal information with family because nobody gets more personal than your blood-related relatives. After I announced my pregnancy at a family dinner, my sister called me the following morning to congratulate me, or so I assumed. I can't even say that I was mildly surprised when she told me she too was pregnant and was expecting soon. I thought it was just another one of her stupid, superficial lies that she came up with, thinking my pregnancy was something to compete over. I hung up on her as soon as she started bragging about how her baby daddy would always be there to support her and make sure she's fed and taken care of her. I didn't care to listen to her brag about her non-existent boyfriend that will be there to support her non-existent baby. The following day, she showed up to my home infuriated about the fact that I hung up on her, not bearing to listen to her lies. She barged right in, shouting and jumping up and down and throwing things within her proximity, complaining about how I've always been the one to pop her bubble and ruin her joys. She passed by moment and smiled definition me before confessing to me that the boyfriend she was bragging about was actually my husband. Yes, the man I have been married to for over 6 years and known for over 12 years is the man she got impregnated by and would be expected to deliver around the same time as me. Definitely not some hypothetical boyfriend she came up with to compete with me and my real pregnancy through her hypothetical one. She told me that she didn't want her baby growing up alone and wanted to create a pair of siblings that would actually care for one another and be there for each other, unlike me and her. Certainly, the reason for our fallout was in her consistent lying and manipulating. It was me being a terrible sister and an unbearable human being. She followed that up by asking me to give her my baby as soon as it is birthed so that she can make sure it doesn't grow up to become as toxic as I am, all while maintaining the story about my husband being the one to impregnate her. Needless to say, I kicked her out immediately and asked her to never return to my house unless you wanted to get arrested, and I suppose it was for some ideas because what she did next was genuinely insane. She went down to the nearest station in which my husband's best friend works and informed him that I had stolen her baby and was keeping it in my house because I couldn't reproduce myself and I was insecure about my infertility. He stopped by my house to make sure that her story wasn't true, but I knew that this was only the first of many attempts of hers to ruin my life for not playing along her stupid game. The following week, she showed up with another pair of police officers who came in to arrest my husband, believing he had raped her and impregnated her, and that I was there watching it and recording it the whole time it was happening without doing anything to help her. Police officers searched up our house for any tapes or recordings. Granted that I gave them the permission, knowing there was nothing to hide. The only thing that surprised me this time was the fact that she was actually pregnant and got tested by the police before they showed up to my doorstep with her. One thing I wouldn't be surprised by is if she had gone out and gotten pregnant, so now after realizing I was pregnant only to fulfill her sickened fantasies. I stopped talking to her and to my mother, who insists that I'm the one in the wrong for not taking her illness into consideration, and gotten a restraining order against her because I know for a fact she won't stop until she causes some seriously reversible damage. Whatever may be going on in your head, I'm not responsible for causing it, nor should I be the one to handle the burdens it results in. Not the a-hole. Although telling whether you're in the wrong here or not can be very tricky because mental illness is always so slippery and unpredictable to analyze, bipolar is a disease that people are born with and suffer from for a good majority of their lives, and it should definitely be considered a massive factor in gliding or excusing people from their behavior. Not the a-hole. I'm confused as to why your mother let you off so easily with your sister, who is an adult that is willingly ignoring the doctor's advice and not taking her medication. Sure, it can be used to excuse and assault her there, but this behavior is that of someone who should be professionally handled and not excused every time they try to ruin someone's life. Not the a-hole. Definitely not in the wrong for cutting her off. Take your husband and child as soon as they're born and get as far away from her as possible, because seems like she would insist on making sure you and your child will suffer the consequences of her disorder. She may be a good person and has good emotions, but at the end of the day, her mental illness might not be the reason to excuse away for her actions, but it sure is one hell of a good reason to stay away from her destructive behavior. Next story. My boyfriend and I have lived together for 5 years. I have 2 kids, he has 1. We moved into his house that is now ours, so he says. We paid off the last $15,000 together, but he really bought this house and is in his name, as it should be. My concern is the other day we had an argument, and our arguments never get heated, but this one did, and he said those words I have heard many times before. If you don't like it, you can get out. This brought alarmingly to my attention that he can make me leave with notice and I have nothing. No house, no appliances, no furniture, nothing. The more I think about it, the more it bothers me. I do not like that he holds the power. He has since apologized and he said he was just angry. I understand that, but it is threatening the stability of my kids' lives. I thought long and hard, and it's not that I want to split up, but I told him I want to buy my own house. I can buy a house and we can move into that one, and he can rent his or I can rent mine out, or we can just live separately. He said if I'm going to move out, we might as well be done. I told him that was his choice, and I tried to be as gentle as possible with my reasoning to help him understand. My kids come first. I make my own money and I can take care of myself. I just feel like I need that stability. He is really upset and thinks I'm being ridiculous. Am I the a-hole? Additional information. I would like to clarify that he has never said this before. I was referring to previous relationships. We generally have a good relationship, but like I said, it made me think. I just want to know that my kids always have a place to go. As for being married, I truly have no desire to be married. I'm fine to be in a committed relationship without being married. Also, his house is something he had bought on his own years ago. Although I did help pay off his house, it was essentially rent, so I really did not even need to bring it up. Owning his house is his accomplishment, and I have no desire to be added to anything. He has his own child, and it will go to her someday. I just want to be able to continue on without me having any worries. I told him it was up to him because my decision stands regardless of whether he can live that way or not. It's not that I don't care. If he does not want to continue our relationship, I would be brokenhearted, but my kids come first. Not the a-hole at all. Your concerns are very valid, and women are put in that exact situation very often. He can't be upset at you for making this decision after he clearly threatened you to leave. I will say, there are couples who live separately due to previous past experiences with housing instability and still do well together. But if he's going to be emotional about this and not work with you when you're just responding to his threats, that may be something to consider with continuing a relationship with him. Definitely protect yourself and your kids first. Not the a-hole. Threatening or mentioning a breakup during a fight is never okay. That is super unhealthy and challenges the stability of the entire relationship. That should be a firm boundary that should never ever be crossed. No wonder you feel concerned and unstable in your relationship if every time y'all fight he tells you to leave. That's a completely logical and valid reaction. Not the a-hole because he is using homelessness as a threat when he's angry with you. It's an extremely abusive thing to threaten someone with, especially when they have kids that could be taken away from them over lack of a suitable environment. I completely understand you wanting the security of your own place for your kids. Him saying you're done as a couple for voicing these feelings is also extremely not right. He's the one that put this whole thing in motion with his threats. I don't want to scare you, but definitely start making contingency plans if this doesn't work out. You need to put you and your kids first over someone that holds housing over you. I like how original poster's reasoning is sound, beneficial, and win-win in all senses. Hey, can we make extra income and I'll be more at ease this way? While original poster's partner is just, no, that way I won't be on top of everything and hold leverage over you. Not the a-hole if he prefers to leave you because you are taking a step in the right direction, so be it. Your mental and economic stability is what will provide for your children in case anything happens. There is no guarantee from him that he would take care of things if such a need arises. Especially if he just told you in an argument to leave and not come back, leaving you practically on the streets. Next story. My grandmother has a daughter, but she wasn't pretty enough. She has another son, but she doesn't talk to him because he sided with his dad during their marital issues. So my father is her golden child, and his second wife, Maria, is the daughter she wanted. My grandmother has been trying to destroy the family by telling my dad that we are using him for money, that we don't care about his happiness or we would accept Maria, and she claims we bully Maria, and when Maria cried at Thanksgiving because we wouldn't let her help us cook, my grandmother told my dad that he needed to take a stand and stop talking to us. Anyway, I recently found out that my grandmother gave some heirloom jewelry to Maria. This jewelry was always passed down to the daughters in the family. I have a sister and my oldest brother has a daughter. So there are 3 girls in the immediate family who my grandmother is just ignoring. I found this out through Instagram and I was stunned. These are pieces that go back 3 generations at least, and as the oldest girl in my generation, at least some of them were meant to be for me. I called my dad and demanded an answer. He said my grandmother just wanted to show Maria how much he loves her and views her like a daughter. I asked why he didn't stop her, and he said it was her jewelry, and since he is her son, it is still being kept in the family. He then confessed that he feels like we're ungrateful, and if we loved him more, we would try to like Maria. I said since I'm not family apparently, I won't be coming to Christmas. I told my siblings and they all agreed except my sister, who is mad at my mom for totally unrelated stuff and has been buddying up to Maria for revenge. We are all boycotting Christmas at his house this year. Maria texted me that I'm being entitled and hurting my dad, and my sister says I'm being dumb and our grandmother isn't obligated to love us, which I think is pretty sad. I do feel somewhat sad because I love my dad, he was a good father, and under different circumstances, I would want to spend Christmas with him. You're the a-hole. While your grandmother doesn't sound like the nicest person, she hasn't actually done anything wrong, nor has your dad or poor Maria, who it sounds like you do bully for no particular reason. Your grandmother can gift her jewelry to whoever she likes, and as far as you know, you might have gotten some too if you didn't throw a little fit about it. Your father has no obligation to intervene in your grandmother's decision about what gifts she wants to give. You all sound like pretty hideous people, but in this particular situation, you're the a-hole. You aren't close to your grandma, but still feel entitled to something of hers. She gave it to the person she wanted it to belong to, that she thinks will take care of it. And I feel I must point out, throwing a tantrum over jewelry when your grandma is saying y'all are money grubbers sort of lends to her point. Everyone sucks here, but you're the one that asked for a judgment, so. Your grandmother inherited the jewelry. It is hers. She can give it to whoever she wants. The fact that it has been kept to blood relatives up to this point has no real bearing on who she can choose to give it to now. It is really none of your concern. If you want to boycott the family celebration because you don't like any of them, that's fine, but call it what it is. You're the a-hole. Please get into therapy. It sounds like you're taking out a lot of your issues on Maria. Also, I can understand being hurt about your grandma's choice, but it is her choice. Just like she can't tell you what to do with your stuff, you can't tell her what to do with her stuff. And also, you don't seem to like your grandma. So why in the world did you think she'd give you things that were precious to her? I think you need to do some reflecting. This whole post has an underlying current of, I don't like most of them, but they need to do what I want, or I'll use my dad as a pawn to hurt them. It reads like you're 14 and really angry, entitled, and stubborn, but I know we're not getting the whole picture.